To start, we wanted to take a look back at the past year in creator activity in 2024 and understand how we landed at this moment in the creator economy. And what we really saw is that creators in 2024 were very legitimized much more broadly in society as they started to show up in more and more traditional spaces. We saw creators show up both in a really big way in traditional entertainment, but also as leaders in business, culture, and even in politics. So we have a couple of pretty epic examples here to run through of where creators were making a really big splash. On the left, we have Jake Paul, who was in a fight with Mike Tyson, and that was live on Netflix. There was 120 million viewers who tuned in for that fight in July 2024, and that volume actually crashed Netflix. There were so many people, the platform could not keep up with the live stream. We saw Mr. Beast launch his competition show Beast Games with the largest ever cash prize in history at $5 million. And since it's launched, it has become the most popular and most watched unscripted show on Amazon, and it reached the #1 spot in 80 countries on Amazon Prime Video. On the bottom right, we had longtime streamer, very popular streamer Kai Cenat be the first creator to ever live stream the Grammy red carpet this year. He got the rights from CBS to stream this and had 3.5 million people watching his live stream of the Grammys. Like a super traditional place with celebrities, and there's a creator on the red carpet as well. In the more business side of things, we saw Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy. I think she's like the creator of the past year, but she's here on the cover of Forbes talking about her business empire. She signed a $125 million deal with Sirius Radio as her Spotify deal was ending. She's launched a new hydration beverage this year called Unwell, and that is now the sponsor of the women's U.S. national soccer team. And then finally, in the political world on both sides of the aisle, a lot of people have heard of the previous election being called the podcast election, as candidates on both sides of the aisle reached out to creators and podcasters to connect with younger audiences. And here we have the example of Theo Von talking with Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. So really, all of these examples are showing us that creators have moved far beyond the feed, and they're embedding themselves in our culture and in our economy into 2025. So we see that creators have developed products that are meeting audience demands. This is the Unwell beverage that I mentioned from Alex Cooper. Consumers are now more likely to buy creator products than they are a traditional brand product, which is actually distorting the marketplace. We see that creators have also really solidified trust with their audiences. Consumers are now following an average of twice as many creators as they are brands, and 87% view creators as a trusted authority. And I think there's no better example of this than the creator I have on screen here. His name is Keith Lee. He is a food reviewer creator. He goes to mom and pop shops, and he like completely sells them out, gets lines around the blocks. And his work has been so impactful that traditional publications like Bon Appetit and New York Times are now covering him because they know that he's the source of authority and trust with his audiences. We also see that creators are demanding and commanding attention. We did in our trivia poll that YouTube viewership is now highest on TV, but it's not just within the platform itself. YouTube has now, for 2 years in a row, earned the #1 TV viewership spot in the US, which is higher than any streamer. That's more viewership than Netflix, than Hulu, than Disney. Miss Rachel, and she's responsible for having a YouTube channel that has one of the highest viewerships on the whole platform. And it's, educational content for toddlers, and parents are watching it in their on their TV as part of their living room experience. And then finally, we're seeing that creators are driving very significant marketing investment. Marketers are expected to increase their spend on creators by 14% in 2025. And there was, no better indicator of this than looking at the Super Bowl. Of course, like a big marketing moment earlier in the year. This creator, Alex Earl, was featured in 3 Super Bowl commercials alone, being seen in a Hellmann's commercial, a Carl's Jr. commercial, and a Poppy commercial. So all of this to say, It's very clear that the creator impact has moved beyond feed, and creators are now shaping our economy and our culture. And as we look ahead, it's really clear to see for brands that creators will either be their strongest collaborator or really their biggest competitor as we look ahead. So that brings us to the core of our report, which is our 4 key beats that we're going to be digging into today and diving deep on the effect that creators are having on new technology innovations, the media landscape at large, performance marketing, and then, like I mentioned, we're going to look at what's up and coming in the next half of the year in the creator economy, what we're really keeping an eye on. So let's dive first into technology, and we want to look at the social media platforms themselves, which of course is the core of where creators are posting their content, and understand how they're evolving to meet the needs of creators. We're going to look at Instagram, TikTok, and surprise guest entry, which is Spotify. But before we dig into the platforms, it's really important to note that we're seeing a shift happening from our social platforms. After many years of optimizing towards advertisers, we're starting to see social media giants invest in the development of products that are oriented towards the creator economy and its ability to drive performance and engagement on its platforms. You see Mark Zuckerberg just about a month or so ago talking on a podcast how he sees that creators are cultural relevance. And I also have a clip here from Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, talking about his perspective on the creator economy.
Do you care if a creator is considered an Instagram creator? In the same way that I think, YouTube creators have a brand to them, right? That's a YouTube creator
or
a
TikToker.
Like
you guys are YouTubers.
Yeah, we're YouTubers, right? Like
I know. I wanted to say it out loud at some point.
But like, do you care about like creators being considered Instagram creators?
I care about our cultural relevance, and both to the general population and to creators. I don't think that we should ever do anything to discourage YouTubers or TikTokers who are primarily on those platforms from being successful. That would be literally just bad for our business. But I do care that there is a critical mass of creators that have an affinity for and a loyalty to our platform, which is one of the reasons why I care so much about small creators in general. I think it's way more practical to help a new generation of creators grow on your platform and therefore have some more affinity and loyalty to your platform than it is to pull someone who's had 15 years of success on YouTube and get them to switch their primary. That's just swimming upstream. That's another reason why I think small creators are super important and why we're trying to do more and more to benefit them.
So I love that clip because what it really shows and highlights is that the platforms are now competing for the loyalty of creators and, of course, the loyalty of the audience. They're seeing that creators are now the number one reason why audiences are coming to their platform, and they're trying to double down like with extreme veracity on products that benefit creators and their production. What's interesting to keep an eye on is as all of these platforms start to compete, we do see a lot of sameness in what they're offering. It'll be interesting to see what type of content, comes out of that and as we see these platforms emerge. So digging into some of these platform evolutions, these are some quick hits on relevant to the creator economy. On Instagram, they're really doubling down on making tools that are easier for creators to create content. They've released Edits, which is a tool very similar to TikTok's CapCut that leverages AI to make editing easier. They're releasing Reels Trials, which is a tool that allows creators to test performance on their assets with non-followers before they post it to their protected audience. And really, for us, why this is important, allows brands to test and learn alongside their creators and really focus on delivering that optimal performance while protecting audiences. On TikTok, they're really leaning into AI. They just released a new creative platform called TikTok Symphony, which allows both brands and creators to easily manipulate their content. They can remix assets, they can do language dubbing. And what you're actually looking at here is the development of a creator avatar asset, which is where you put in a brief and they formulate a human looking creator that you can then share on feed. This seems a bit futuristic, but when we think about something like usage rights, there's an opportunity for brands to, invest in the name and likeness of a creator and then use their visual to develop a higher volume of assets. And again, to combat the thought of this being futuristic, actually H&M recently just did this with a campaign where they had a mix of original photography and then AI assets to scale quickly. So of course, why does this matter? Creators are really still at the core going to be those creative directors. But when there's tools like these Symphony AI tools, it allows for that higher content volume for media. And then finally, when we look at Spotify, they recently launched a creator partnership program, really trying to double down on increasing video podcasts on their platform. It's grown drastically in the last year. And what they're really trying to do is sort of seek a stake in the creator economy. This program for the creators was launched in Q1, and in Q1 of 2025, creators earned $100 million on Spotify. So the volume of content being produced, the advertising opportunity is really growing, and we expect to see Spotify continuing to be a player in this space, especially as you see platforms like YouTube continuing to dominate. So moving right along into the media landscape, now that we have a good sense of what's happening on the social platforms, how are creators impacting the bigger picture of media and entertainment? What creators are bringing to Hollywood is a competing approach to IP. Creators are swiftly entering as a new form of award-worthy, proven IP, bringing new ideas. I've heard the phrase a lot lately that creators are the new startups of Hollywood, and I think that's going to be something to really keep an eye on this year. But as we see the viewership of traditional TV steadily declining, we see social media viewership steadily increasing. And if we look to the streaming platforms, 64% of original scripted series on these major streamers are coming from already established IP. And at the same time, you see YouTube series like Hot Ones or Chicken Shop Day or Good Mythical Morning being nominated for Emmys and actually disrupting really stale categories like Outstanding Talk Series, for example. You also see creators like Good Mythical Morning attending very traditional events like Sundance and bringing their creator perspective. Why is this really important? Creators are coming to the table not only with fresh ideas, but also performance data and dedicated audiences. They're challenging this traditional model of entertainment, and what's most important is that audiences are really dedicated and supporting this shift. And now part of the reason we think that this is happening, again, is tying back to YouTube and their absolute dominance of taking over that primary screen. It's going beyond just mobile or desktop, but now a living room experience where people are leaning back and really engaging in and putting in the time to watch this content. So like I mentioned, YouTube has secured the largest ever share of viewership on television screens for now 2 years in a row, surpassing all of the other streamers. Viewers are watching up to 1 billion hours of YouTube content on TVs daily. And a big portion of that viewership is in podcasts. So viewers have watched over 400 million hours of podcasts monthly on their living room devices. Now it's starting to make sense why Spotify wants to get into the conversation. Why does this matter? Creator content is straight up outperforming traditional media content. We really predict this is just the start when we look at YouTube, and a lot of forms of traditional media are going to continue to evolve in the digital landscape with creators at the helm. A great example of how this is coming to life into the feed is the concept of the social series. So this is something we've seen really start to emerge as a repeatable format in the last year or so, where creators are developing series-based content at scale that really emulates TV-style programming. So this style of content is like a format the creator might build. They release episodes on their channel. Audiences are able to follow along and start to engage in the story of the content. And it's performing really well. Episodic content can increase engagement on social by up to 300%. 52% of consumers say they're likelier to purchase from a brand who creates that sort of episodic entertaining content. And according to Patreon, fans are even 2 times more likely to pay for this type of content as longer form, more engaging. There's 2 great examples on the right-hand side here. I'm really into DIY renovation type content. So that's where these came from. But Jenna is renovating her entire house and she's been posting content between YouTube and TikTok and Instagram for over a year of this renovation. And you can see in the comments, people are really engaged. They're talking about time has flown by watching this construction. This house is going to be amazing. You're building these micro communities around this episodic content, and you're building that storyline over time, not confined to a single post, but again, building a story and building that through line of entertainment over a longer form series of content. On the right-hand side is Kylie. She renovates all these different houses in her room and will release it in stints saying like day 3 of renovating my daughter's playroom. And again, you can see those comments of excitement, anticipation, and Kylie's content performs so well on social that she's actually gotten a TV show where she does the same kind of content. So you're again really seeing that deep interaction between traditional media and social media, and creators are really pushing those narratives forward. Why does this matter for our conversation? Of course, this is a huge opportunity for brands to develop and sponsor vertical specific material and move that investment from traditional TV onto social, where audiences are actually watching the content. All right, so moving right along, we're going to shift to talk about performance, which of course, at the end of the day, as a marketer, is the most important thing. We can make a really cool asset, but if it's not going to deliver for our brand, then what are we doing? So let's dig deeper into performance marketing with Creator. For a very long time, creators have been very well acknowledged as a strong storytelling tool, but now we're seeing their ability to deliver measurable performance and action throughout the whole funnel. Even beyond social, creator content can now be placed on display, OLV, digital out of home, CTV, and we see it performing better compared to branded assets, actually 3 to 5 times better. These are some great examples on the right-hand side of seeing where creator assets can come to life in like a digital out of home placement. We're also seeing social commerce rise drastically. TikTok Shop is seeing higher index growth than Shein, Sephora, and Home Shopping TV, which is where audiences are able to buy content directly in the social platform, in this case on TikTok. And across the industry, ROI on creator content is just seen as being much higher, much agreed that the impact of and ROI of this content is beyond traditional digital advertising. So why does this matter? Of course, creators are now a full funnel solution. It's important to consider them that way. And we're starting to see the media landscapes shift towards this to accelerate that action. One example of this is in the concept of creative liquidity. I asked at the start, how much is creative influencing performance? Google, Meta, Nielsen are all agreeing it's up to 50 to 70% of the success of the campaign. And what's really important from Meta's perspective to continue to stand out and drive this performance is to have a high volume and high diversity of assets. So really ensuring that you're tapping into all the growth opportunities within your brand, representing different audiences, different visual styles, different messaging placements, funnel versioning to break through the content overload and capture attention with your audience wherever they're active on social. And of course, creators are an excellent cost-effective way to develop a robust amount of content and tap in and cater to all of these different growth opportunities. Beyond social, Google is also now recognizing the authority of creators. So now when you search in a query on Google, creators can be surfaced, this example Casey means here, as a reputable authority on that topic. For the first time in a decade, Google's share of search has fallen below 90%, and that's because of search on social. And of course, people are turning to creators as that authority. 61% of Gen Z and millennials see social as a place for search, and they go there frequently or very frequently. And we now see all of the social platforms offering a search placement as an ad buy style, where you're able to, target audiences based on keyword queries and then surface creator content to them to help solve that problem. Why is this important? We can optimize our creator content for that searchability and really make it easier for audiences to find what's relevant to them. And then creators are making their own products. I talked about Alex Cooper as well, but beyond Alex, she's a really big creator. What's important to see here is that both independently and in collaboration with brands, creators are developing these products that not only represent their creative vision, but speak directly to their audience demand. 2 out of 3 people in 2024 purchased a creator product or service. These creators hold first-party data and insight on their audience, and they can help brands develop products or product lines that have significant business impact. Another great example on the right-hand side is Julia here. She got famous on TikTok for trying to find the perfect hoodie. She tried all these different brands, and then she got in collaboration with Gap and made the hoodie that hoodies, which was a perfect fit, and really sort of, again, tapped onto an insight that this creator already knows her audience. She already has momentum, and they can create a product together rather than just having the creator be a billboard for something that already exists. So that brings us to our final category here, which is what we're keeping an eye on in the next half of the year, what's upcoming in the creator economy. I think the most important thing for any marketer to take out of this conversation today is that as our world matures, so does the creator side of the equation. So creators are really leaning into revenue diversification, and they're seeking broader methods of securing income. If you look at the right-hand side here, the chart at the top outlines some of the ways that large US creators are earning their money. At the top, you still see sponsored content, affiliate links, creator funds, but what's growing is things like subscription, merchandise, digital products. There's creators who are really seeking to develop stronger direct-to-fan strategies that allow them to have more control over the revenue that they're earning. So again, whether that be a paid subscription, ticket sales for an event, they're creating a course. 67% of creators surveyed in a recent Patreon study reported that they're earning more from subscription sales now versus 5 years ago. And Patreon is predicting that 56% of potential creator value comes from these sort of direct-to-fan relationships in the next 5 years. Why is this important? As creators become more savvy with their income, they're also going to become more discerning about the partnerships that they set up. So those authentic brand love partnerships are really going to be essential and crucial as creators get a little bit more power on their side as well. And the last thought to take away of how they're bringing this to life is through the concept of world building. Creators are expanding their impact beyond the feed. They're building these digital ecosystems that allow followers to engage in commerce that appeals to their niche interest. And a great example of this is the creator Molly Baz, who actually was just listed as number 7 on Adweek's top 100 creatives for 2025. But she has a massive digital footprint. She has physical products like a cookbook, Crate and Barrel products. She has her own sauce line. And then she has digital products like Pinterest boards, subscription clubs, and a YouTube channel. And really what you're seeing here is more opportunities for creators to develop content, but also brands to integrate themselves as well to really find strong, authentic partnerships that align. And that brings us to the end of our content today. So thank you all for tuning in. If there's any questions that pop up, we have a couple minutes left to discuss. I'll just wait a moment to see if anything comes in. We also have some questions that were actually submitted in the registration phase too. So I'll pop in here. One of the questions that came up, what is the lowest hanging fruit for improving creator campaign performance? So what we would really recommend here is leaning into channel diversification and that insight of creative liquidity, knowing that audiences are across platforms. There's so many different moments that they're engaging with content and with a brand. It's important to make sure that you're investing your partnership across platforms and developing very high variations of content to not only perform the user or improve the user experience, but also support your media process as well. Okay, great. And then the next question that came in during registration is, what is the next big channel to keep an eye on? From our perspective, YouTube is like an undeniable giant. It's just hit its 20-year anniversary. It's of course been a really sort of like steady channel in the creator economy, but we're seeing significant growth on this platform. Part of it is a belief that, you know, as TikTok's future still remains uncertain in the US, it's again, creators and brands are searching for a little bit of opportunity to have some channel diversity. But we see the podcast growth, we see streaming opportunities. Shorts, of course, is growing. It allows them to have a full funnel within their own network. And then this idea that creators are the startup of Hollywood, I think we really see that longer form production happening on that channel, and I think it'll be something to watch. Another question that just came in: who are some of your favorite creators and why? That's a good question for the group. Honestly, Alex Cooper has inspired me so much in the last year. She's very authentic and she covers a wide range of content in her podcasts and on her social channels, but her ability to sort of transcend social and build these really strong multimedia partnerships that bridge both, social, but also traditional places like radio, I think is really impressive. Another creator I love is Amelia de Moldenberg. Similarly, she has done a phenomenal job of really, pushing the social series forward, bridging the gap between traditional media, social media, and showing that you don't need to be siloed. You can be creative and you can tell a good story and people are going to be interested and you're going to have impact. So that brings us to 1:30. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate your time. And yeah, I hope you learned something new. Thank you so much for joining today.